This was a banner weekend for Arizona athletics. We have got a lot to get to here, from Arizona football to Arizona basketball. So let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we have got a lot to get to. First and foremost, we are going to talk some Arizona football. And with Arizona football, the one thing that I think we all need to keep an eye on is how many wins could this team get to before the season ended? And you know what? Arizona ended with 5 wins. And 5 wins, to me, is a massive, massive victory for Jedd Fisch and his entire coaching staff. You watch this squad and you think to yourself that what exactly is the end game here? How good can this team really be? And this team showed in a big way that it answered the bell, and it answered the bell, I think, more than anybody could have thought. One thing about this team that I think is very interesting is, when you look at the grand scheme of things, how did you get here? And the first thing is the overhaul of the quarterback position. And again, we lead with that because that wasn't necessarily even on display against ASU. Jayden de Laura did not have one of his better games. As a matter of fact, I think that you could make the case that Jayden de Laura had one of his worst games. But Arizona was able to win the game, and quite frankly, they deserved to win it. Arizona forced 5 turnovers on ASU, and I think that the one thing that is very impressive about the entire situation was that you watch this team and you're like, all right, well, if Jayden de Laura doesn't play well, then they're probably not going to have any chance of winning. They dispelled that, and they dispelled that in a big way. The defense did not play well for the majority of the game. I think the one thing that you watch with this squad is you just need to have better performance from the coaching staff and from the players, because there were way too many times that ASU players were just able to go and sit down in a zone and get 12, 13 yards. And that was maddening because you knew every single time what ASU was going to do. And it was like there was nothing that Arizona could do about it. That is a problem that needs to be addressed. But Arizona did force some turnovers. The young guys, again, I love the fact that the young guys were playing out there. They got their first taste of this rivalry. And, honestly, it's a rivalry that I think a lot of people, I think, try to poo-poo it a little bit and say, well, it's really not that good. It's not that intense. It is that intense. Now, again, the teams might not be that good, but it's a pretty intense rivalry. And, there's really, you look at it, and both these teams absolutely hate each other. And, quite frankly, there's no other way around it. But I think what also is nice about this squad, though, is that it's a younger group of players. It's a younger group of guys entirely. And Jedd Fisch was playing the younger dudes. I love that fact. And you know what? Quite frankly, I love that fact that he's done that from basically from about mid-season on. He said to himself, we're going to play guys. We're going to play younger guys, and we're going to take our lumps with them. If we have to take our lumps with them, so be it. And that's exactly what they did. So, a big, big tip of the cap, though, to Arizona on the defensive side of the ball for being able to force a huge turnover when they really needed to force a huge turnover. And, maybe that's going to be the template next year. You give up a lot of yards, but at the end of the day, you're going to be able to force some turnovers. And if you can do that, then, you're kind of at a next level type situation right there. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, Michael Wiley. He's kind of been overlooked, probably been overlooked on this show as well. But Michael Wiley was absolutely fantastic. He was a monster out there. and he had shades of Trung candidate, who we will be getting to here in a little bit. But watching Wiley out there, he can, he's a pretty instinctive runner. He can get after, again, he can get to where he needs to get on the field, but more so than anything, he's a grinder. You find a lot of guys now that just aren't grinders. He is a guy that 100% wants to be out there and make a huge contribution, and he did just that. All of Arizona's running backs can come back if they want to, and I think that's a very enticing proposition if you're an Arizona fan right now, knowing that all of these running backs can come back. That's obviously a very good thing right there. But again, Arizona needed this win. ASU has won too many of these games, and Arizona needed to get in there. Arizona needed to get a victory out of this, and they did just that. All right, now let's talk a little bit first about upside. All right, now here's the deal. Now, inflation has us all thinking about different ways to cut back, from gas to shopping to travel, you name it. And whether it's driving less, dining out less, or buying less from the grocery, we can all agree there's nothing fun about less. We all know that. That's where Upside comes in. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, and dines out. With Upside, you don't have to cut back because you get cash back on every purchase. All right, so here's the deal. To get started, download the free Upside app, use my promo code LOCKEDON, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Now, download the free Upside app, and you can use promo code LOCKEDON to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKEDON. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, what does this mean going into the offseason then? You've had a lot of people that I think were, went into the year and you're like, all right, how many wins? Arizona has essentially struggled for a long, long time here. And last year you had one win. This year you got 5 wins. Again, 1 to 5, that is an easy thing to be able to sell on the recruiting trail. You can say Jedd Fisch can tell kids in their living rooms, listen, I inherited a mess. We, 12-game losing streak, 1 win in our first year. We brought in a top 25 recruiting class. Then the following year it was followed up by, 1 win, then 5 wins. Now I think you got to start pushing to the 7 or 8 wins. And that's where, I think it gets really fascinating for people. Can Arizona get into that? It's been a long time since we've been in that situation. So if you're Arizona, if you can get there, which I believe you're going to be able to do, because the schedule is much easier and you return the overwhelming percentage of these players. Now, again, Arizona's going to have to hit the transfer portal very hard. I'm not breaking any news there. Arizona's going to have to hit the portal, and they're going to have to hit the portal hard. But offensively, the interior line looks good. The running backs look good. The quarterback obviously needed to be a little bit more consistent, but overall it was good. The wide receivers are fantastic, with or without Jayden de Laura. This is a receiving core that has next level ability to it. So that offense looks pretty good. Now, defensively, you're hoping that between Kungaika, between Tai, between Deuce Davis, between Deuce Lane, Jacob Manu, an absolute monster, Prize Sock, Davis, that you can continue to get a little bit more impact out of there. And if you can get that, then Arizona is going to be sitting pretty. Again, we're having a few technical issues here. I do apologize. Now, one thing, though, that I did want to talk to you guys about really quickly was LinkedIn. Okay, here's the deal with LinkedIn. These days, every potential hire can feel like a high-stakes hire for your small business. Everybody knows how it can be. It can be frustrating. It can be disconcerting. All right, so here's the deal. That's why people use LinkedIn. You can get the applicants you need for free, and on top of that, you can find jobs. So again, you can find LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free on LinkedIn. Again, linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. There's a reason that over 40 million people have used LinkedIn, and it's easy because it works. Why wouldn't you use something that works right there? Again, LinkedIn has you all covered on that motto. Again, check it out because it's here, and there's a reason, again, that everybody uses it. All right, we're going to be right back with you, and we're going to talk a little bit about next season's off-season expectations. All right. Now, thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Now, let's talk a little bit about recruiting right here, because recruiting is obviously the lifeblood of what Jedd Fisch wants to do. And Jedd Fisch has said from day one that he needs to be able to recruit. Look at what he did this past year. He brought in a Dorian Singer. He brought in a T-Mac. He brought in a Cowing. He brought in a De Laura. We've talked about that. Who are those next guys? Now, a lot of these guys coming in, I think, are going to take a little bit of time to mature to that level. But I think you're also going to find out that right now, he's going to hit the transfer portal hard on the D line and at the linebacker spot and at the safety spot. You got to get better at those positions, because I think offensively you're going to be fine, but it's going to be up to Jedd Fisch to be able to find where these players are and who they can be. Now, I look at it and I think that guys like, like maybe the Markham twins or whatever at ASU, guys like that could be interesting in the for the secondary. But those are the kind of guys that Arizona needs to try to find right now. And once they find those guys, you're going to be in pretty good shape. I absolutely love what they've done with, overhauling the offense. Now it's on to the defense and getting difference makers. You're also hoping that from that first recruiting class, some of that that internal progression can continue to play its way out. Guys like a Kagaika, a Tai, can they become real bulwarks on the defensive line? And if they can, it's going to be a problematic defense for a lot of teams to be able to contain out there. I'm not really breaking any news right there, but so you got to bring in some players in the transfer portal. You've also got to be able to bring in and improve some of the play from those guys out there. Now, Arizona's got a pretty full class already, but as we've talked about before, the difference makers a lot of time are going to be in that transfer portal. And if you find those guys, then you're going to be in pretty good shape. One thing that Jedd Fisch has shown, though, is that he knows how to get talent. Some people question whether he can coach. I don't, but he's shown that he can really bring in some guys, and he's shown that pretty much from day one. And that's going to be the next step for him. Can he get the difference makers? And we're going to find out right there. But I think that he's going to be able to. Now, how does you look at the rest of the Pac-12 South, and you're like, all right, well, where is the UCLA? I could see taking a big step back. You lose Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You lose a bunch of players right there. Utah's always going to be solid. Then you get, got teams like Colorado's going to suck. ASU should suck. So USC is going to be good, obviously, but Arizona's going to be good. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I apologize. We're having a few technical issues. We'll be back with you tomorrow, though, breaking everything down. You've been listening to Locked On Wildcats.